Let's talk about subqueries. This might be a little intimidating to some of you. I know that it was for me when I first started working with subqueries, which was several years ago in another institution, but that's another story for another day. I was kind of scared about of them. I didn't know exactly when to use them, let alone how to create them, why, how, when. Many philosophical questions being addressed today on this topic. So I'm going to try to simplify it for you, break it down conceptually, and then after this, we are going to look at several examples. So, what is a subquery? It's basically a query within a query. Pretty much the same standard definition for this across the board. Ask any query developer. That's probably the first answer that they're going to give you if you ask them, what the heck is this thing? So, the subquery is basically nested within the main or the top level query. Sort of, but not exactly like a mama chicken nesting her eggs. The top level of your main query is regarded as the parent, which controls what's being displayed, while the subquery is the child, which controls the parent, even though the parent may not realize. To illustrate this, imagine a parent asking their child to clean their room. The parent, the main query that is, wants to know if the room is clean, but instead of checking it themselves, they ask the child, the subquery, to do it. The child goes to their room, checks if it's clean, and then reports back to the parent. So here's how it breaks down. Hey, kiddo, is your room clean? Asks the parent. Yeah, let me check. The child, holding on to their phone, goes to their room, inspects it. Well, not really. And then comes back with the answer. In SQL terms, it looks something like this. So, obviously, this was a pretty unusual analogy, but I want to take the following away from this. So, the parent relies on the child to gather specific information, the status of the room before making a decision or taking further action. The child subquery performs the tasks and provides the necessary information to the main query. So, just like a parent might delegate a task to their child, a main query delegates a task to a subquery to get the information it needs. It's a way of breaking down a complex task into smaller, manageable parts. There are three main types of subqueries: single value, enlist, and exists. The single value subquery calculates the average GPA, and the main selects students who earn more than this average. So, this is an example. Okay, so what does that mean? The single value subquery returns a single value. It's often used when you need to compare a field to a single value returned by the subquery. In the endless subquery, we return a list of plan codes under the undergraduate career. The main query then selects those students who belong or are enrolled in those plans. So, in an in list, basically, we're getting back a list of values that are going to be used in the main query. It's like asking, is this value in the list of values returned by the subquery? Okay? Now, in this example, the subquery checks if there are any departments under the undergrad career that match the department ID of the students. The main query then selects students who are enrolled in those departments. So an exists subquery checks for the existence of rows returned by a subquery. It says, hey, does this condition actually exist in the subquery? It's like a true or false statement. Here's a conceptual view of the expression 1 and expression 2 sets of criteria in what you see within PeopleSoft. For a single value and an enlist subquery, the main query uses the subquery's result set as the criteria's expression to comparison value. Basically, how it works is that single value and enlist subqueries obtain a derived value or a list of values, which are then used as the expression to comparison value in the top level criteria. Meanwhile, in exists subquery result set is not used as a comparison at the top level. Instead, it's used only to determine the existence or non existence of something. In an exists subquery, we simply evaluate for true or false existence or non existence of data. Since all subqueries are separate queries, they will have their own select statement, their own from and where statements in the SQL code, as you see right here. So I've highlighted in orange the subquery, light gray at the top, the main level. So let's see what a subquery can do for you. Return a single value that can be used as the expression to comparison value, produce a list of values that can be used as the expression to value in the top level query, return true or false, where the subquery checks if a value exists or doesn't exist. The exists subquery does not compare anything to the top level, it simply answers the question of yes or no. If the subquery returns one or more rows, it is considered true. If it returns no rows, then it's false. And that's about it. In summary, next we are going to dive into some examples.